Hey everybody, we're starting the new topic of inheritance now. So we're moving on from basic genetics and we're talking more about reproduction and how genes pass between generation to generation. So the first big idea to think about is that species reproduce because each individual, it doesn't live forever. So individuals don't live forever. So we know that we get old and we die. Individuals can die from diseases or from accidents. So it's important that you have another generation to continue on with your species. And so that's why every living thing reproduces. So the definition of reproducing is pretty much it's the process of continuing life from generation to generation. From one generation to the next. And it's one of the fundamental objectives of every living thing. So animals, and all plants, every kingdom of life, basically its fundamental goal is to survive and reproduce so that it can pass its genes on to the next generation and to survive. So that's the benefits of reproducing. So it allows your genes and essentially your species to go on and hopefully survive as long as possible. Okay. So here's a few pictures to look at. And it's a pretty obvious case when we look at families of humans, and other species too, that we always tend to look a lot like our parents, and we have similar characteristics to our parents. So we've got the Kardashians. I think that's Kim. It's pretty sad that I know that. Not sure what the mum's called, but you can see how similar they look just in their appearance. We've also got Reese Witherspoon and her daughter. I'm not sure what her name is, but they look really similar too. Also down here, we've got 3 generations of the same family, and these photos are taken when the person was the same age. So the grandmother, it looks to be about age 2 or 3. I think about 2 actually. We've got the grandmother, the mother, and her daughter, and look how similar they look at age 2. So it's really clear that our characteristics and our traits get passed on from generation to generation. And in biology we call that inheritance. And the reason that our traits pass between generation to generation is because our genes are actually being passed down. So when organisms reproduce, their genetic information passes to the next generation. To the next generation. Alright. So one way of showing inheritance through lots of generations is what's called a pedigree chart. or just a pedigree for short. So this is a pedigree over on the right here. And really a pedigree is just a more detailed version of a family tree. So here's a family tree from showing all the characters from Game of Thrones. You've probably seen family trees before. You might have made one of your own family or seen one. So we know that the lines joining together like these people here, they represent marriage, and then the people underneath represent their children. And so you can show all the children and the relationships all through the generations. And that's what a pedigree chart shows as well, but it helps us to follow the inheritance of one particular trait. So pedigree charts, they're a type of family tree that lets us track the inheritance of a trait. To track inheritance. So on this family tree, on this pedigree, this is following the trait of albinism in a family. So the genetic condition of being albino is caused by one gene, and you can see here that the albino individuals are the white shaded people. So Bill was the first person in the family to have it, and then his grandson Sam also had albinism. And scientists and doctors use pedigrees to follow particular, often it's diseases, all the way through generations. And it helps them to predict whether individuals themselves will actually have a disease. Okay, so that's a few of the basics of inheritance.